the culture war stuff, but I don't think it's going to work. There's always going to be limited success regardless. But the amount of success that they can get out of farming this like culture war shit is smaller and smaller. So it is what it is. Okay, so simultaneously pardoning Maxwell is a bad move. Yeah. I did cover Mo Salah. All right, so Trump is deploying National Guard to D.C. and also placing the police under federal control. All of this started because of Big Balls. Big Balls was beaten up by a group of rowdy teenagers, according to the police. There were two teenagers, one 15-year-old, I think, teenage boy, and then another teenage girl. We don't know the exact details of what took place at this incident. Initially, they were like saying Big Balls heroically stopped a carjacking from taking place, but then like you look further into the situation and it doesn't seem like that was going on. It seems like they made it seem at first as though like Big Balls was stopping a carjacking that was taking place of a random woman. It turns out he was with his girlfriend potentially, I think. I just don't know the exact details of it, but it is Big Balls. We know that it is Big Balls. Big Balls was a victim of being attacked, a victim of an ass beating that he took from two teenagers, one boy and one girl. We know that those are the two suspects. It was the night of Big Balls. Many of you are laughing. Big Balls got his ass beat in D.C. by a teenage girl and a teenage boy, and you're laughing. And now Donald Trump is using. What are we doing, man? I can't believe these are the words that are coming out of my mouth when I'm describing like a potential federal takeover of law enforcement in the nation's capital. And like the fucking inflection point of this is Big Balls getting beat up by a 15-year-old girl and a 15-year-old boy. What the fuck is happening in this world, man? That's it. That's his name. His name is Big Balls. That is how we know him. That is how people have tweeted about the incident. None of this makes sense. Big Balls, for those of you who don't know, was one of the Doge employees, one of the barely adult Doge employees that was tasked with gutting the regulatory agencies. Oh, God damn. Anyway, here is Donald Trump taking the initiative.
Trump walking up to the podium. Let's listen.
I've been up here a lot. I've never seen a crowd like this. I think we need a ballroom, and that's happening. It's going to be a beautiful ballroom. This is really a lot of people, most I've ever seen in this room. And we're here for a very serious purpose. Very serious.
Big Balls was beaten up. Very serious purpose. That's the very serious purpose we have here. We will never allow Big Balls to be beaten up ever again. He got beat up, but we won't let it happen again.
This purpose, something's out of control, but we're going to put it in control very quickly like we did on the southern border. I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam.
Yeah, by the way, D.C. and many other American cities, of course, are experiencing the lowest level of crime. D.C. specifically, I think in like 3 decades, lowest level of crime. So like Donald Trump saying that this is like crime is out of control is just a relitigation of shit that is not happening. Once again, invent a problem that doesn't actually exist or a trend that is going in the positive direction, act as though it's actually in the negative direction, lie about it. No one is going to check you anyway. And then what do? You have to fix this problem that you keep claiming is going on. Okay? This is virtually everything that this administration has done. Literally every time this administration identifies an issue that's taking place, it is basically a direct reversal of the reality. Okay? Reality on the ground, immigrants are not actually contributing to crime in meaningful ways. As a matter of fact, undocumented migrants are responsible for much lower rates of crime per capita than natural-born U.S. citizens are. Donald Trump keeps claiming consistently that migrants are actually rapists, drug dealer, murderers, and they're doing tremendous amounts of crime. They're beheading people, hundreds of thousands of Americans a day or whatever the fuck. No one actually checks them. And then when he comes into power, he's like, well, we got to do some sort of immigration enforcement. Lo and behold, it turns out we're not actually apprehending these rapist, drug dealer beheaders. We're just apprehending regular ass people that have been fucking working at the goddamn fields to make a fucking penny to give back to their families. That's why they're doing these Home Depot raids, as a matter of fact. Is that where the MS-13 decapitators are at? That's what they're waiting at? They're waiting at the Home Depots? In Hollywood, there's a Home Depot. There's a bunch of day laborers that are undocumented migrants that are waiting there. You think they're fucking waiting for, what kind of day labor are they waiting for? A decapitation and an assassination contract? Is that why? They're waiting outside of Home Depot for someone to roll up and be like, hey, man, can you please decapitate my enemies? Is that what's going on? No, of course not. It's fucking stupid because that's not a real problem. Donald Trump invented the problem. Well, Donald Trump didn't single-handedly invent the problem, but he just ran on this being a real issue. And, of course, because it's not a real problem at all, you have to fucking turn around and invent a solution, a real violent solution for a problem that doesn't exist. Same goes for crime in D.C. Is there crime in D.C.? Certainly. D.C. is also a majority black. I mean, it's a very black city, okay? This is part of the reason why Donald Trump wants to do tremendous enforcement in D.C. There's also, obviously, a housing crisis in D.C. as there is everywhere else. So there's homelessness there, too. And he wants to just, like, do violent seizures and violent apprehensions in D.C., and in an effort to make sure that this kind of attitude sticks, you got to just, like, point to one instance of crime to say this is out of control. We got to fucking stop it. And it turns out it's two teenagers that jumped big balls. That is the reason. Yeah, of course, violent crime is at a 30-year low in D.C., but don't let real information get in the way of creating a comfortable narrative, right? A violent, reactionary, right-wing narrative. Of course. Too many newsrooms are just parroting the Trump admin's claims about crime and reporting on what's happening in D.C. as the National Guard is deployed into a crime crackdown. Violent crime in D.C. is 30-year low. Total violent crime for 2024 in the District of Columbia is down 35% from 2023 and is at its lowest as it's been in over 30 years, according to data collected by the Metropolitan Police Department and announced by the United States Attorney Matthew M. Graves. A breakdown of data is available here. In addition to overall violent crime reduction, homicides are down 32%, robberies are down 39%, armed carjackings are down 53%, assaults with a dangerous weapon are down 27% when compared to 2023 levels, with the district reporting the fewest assaults with dangerous weapons and burglaries in over 30 years. That's where we're at. It's like, crime is out of control. Look at how many black people are around. That's basically what it is. Do not let actual information, the truth, empirical evidence, and all the other gay woke shit like that get in the way of crafting a fucking right-wing narrative that justifies the military coming in and, I guess, like doing violent seizures and violent crime tackling. Okay, fake stats are woke, they're gay, it's made up. That's basically what it is. Okay, it's also, we're in a permanent state of like, what are you gonna fucking do about it with this administration? So they don't even care. They don't even care about this.
And squalor and worse. This is Liberation Day in D.C. and we're going to take our capital back. We're taking it back under the authorities vested in me as the President of the United States. I'm officially invoking Section...
What changed reduced crime so substantially? Crime rates increased dramatically due to COVID instability, and then it's normalizing once again. That's what's the major factor here. That's it. That's all it is. Crime has been on a consistent downtrend for decades at this point. What these guys mean when they talk about crime, what they mean is visible poverty, okay, homelessness, and storefronts closing down, shit like that, which is a direct product of bad policy. And the only way to tackle that issue is by doing good policy that actually improves the material circumstances of working class Americans. But obviously they won't do that because that's fucking extra woke and extra gay, extra socialist, right? So they have to do like violent apprehension, which is fascist. It's on the exact opposite front. Not to get all blue and on, but this feels like a practice run for eventually declaring martial law nationwide. Oh, for sure. Abso-freaking-lutely. That's not even, I don't think that's blue and on at all. It's very obvious that this man wants to federalize the National Guard in every state he possibly can, specifically blue states. Red states will obviously implement the National Guard at the Trump's behest regardless. And he wants to violently and forcibly go through this process and take control over every single fucking country. It's interesting because like there is no sophisticated false flag operation or a psyop that they're implementing. They're basically just saying there's no need for it anymore. You can just have Donald Trump say there's a lot of crime happening in this area, so we have to literally use the military to stop it. And people will go, okay, I guess we do. Like, there's no need for any sort of, there's no false flag operation. There's no like, CIA comes in and like it does some kind of like intervention or whatever. The president just says it. There's no pushback from the media ecosystem. So obviously, whatever he says goes. And before you know it, you're like, I guess we just have military on the streets. Great.
740 of the District of Columbia Home Rule Act. You know what that is? And placing the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department under direct federal control, and you'll be meeting the people that will be directly involved with that. Very good people, but they're tough, and they know what's happening, and they've done it before. In addition...
Yeah, the fact that the victim was Big Balls, it makes it even crazier. Like, maybe that's the fucking false flag. Who knows, right? I don't think so, though. But it does make for an insane story. It makes for quite a stupid story. You know, our big, beautiful balls was attacked in a carjacking by teenagers. We will put an end to teenage crime by force. We will make the military shoot the teens.
Deploying the National Guard to help reestablish law, order, and public safety in Washington, D.C., and they're going to be allowed to do their job properly. And you people are victims of it, too. You know, you're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. And so you can be any...
I think one of the craziest things to say in D.C. of all places is that, like, you don't want to be mugged and raped and shot and killed. And it's like, dog, you're a rapist, okay? You have a literal, another rapist to your left that you made the Secretary of State. In D.C. of all places, if someone is likely to be raped, it is probably by the rapist in charge of the government, okay? What an insane thing to just add on to the equation. It's like when we do the rapes, it's different. It's legalized. It's cool. Ghislaine Maxwell, free Ghislaine.
Anything you want, but you want to have safety in the streets. You want to be able to leave your apartment or your house where you live and feel safe and go into a store to buy a newspaper or buy something. And you don't have that now. The murder rate in Washington...
D.C. Violent crime in D.C. 2024 to 2025 year-to-date comparison. They just slam it right next to him saying this. Homicide down 12%. Sexual abuse down 49%. Assault with a dangerous weapon down 20%. Robbery down 28%. That's the woke D.C. Met Police. D.C. Met Police is lying because they're woke. Believe me, folks, they're lying. They're lying to the American public about how the crime is down. It's up. It's up. Why do I know it's up? Because I said so. We are going to fire the statistics guy at DC Metropolitan Police, and we're going to put whatever numbers we say is happening. That's right. These are not accurate numbers. These are inaccurate fake news numbers. We're going to fire the person who came up with the numbers and make sure that it is reflective of the reality.
Today is higher than that of Bogota, Colombia.
Are you saying his bar charts are fake? First of all, he doesn't have a bar chart. He's just making shit up. Okay? He's just making shit up. Why is he making this shit up? Because he wants to utilize the National Guard as a police force that is beholden to him and him only. And it's a testing ground. DC is a testing ground because it's like not a real state. It's a District of Columbia, and it doesn't have like the same tools at its disposal. So Donald Trump is basically using the DC, the big balls beat up, as an inflection point to try to test some kind of like federal law enforcement, because there's already a tremendous amount of federal law enforcement agents in DC to begin with. Yeah. There's no chart yet. Okay. I'm sure eventually there will be a chart that they will point to that will, create a neat little narrative, right? Oh, there. Okay. This is funny. Oh, here it is, dude. DC police commander suspended, accused of changing crime statistics. Police union says directive to change offense classification comes from command staff. This is from July 18th, 2025. A DC police commander is under investigation for allegedly making changes to crime statistics in his district. The Met Police Department confirmed Michael Pulliam was placed on paid administrative leave in mid-May. That happened just a week after Pulliam filed an equal employment opportunity complaint against the assistant chief, and the police union accused the department of deliberately falsifying crime data, according to 3 law enforcement sources familiar with the complaint. The union claims police supervisors in the department manipulate crime data to make it appear like violent crime has fallen considerably compared to last year. Pulliam, the former commander of the 3rd District of Patrol's Adam Morgan in Columbia Heights, was placed on leave with pay, and he was told he was under the investigation for questionable changes to crime data. 5 law enforcement sources familiar with the investigation told News 4. That came about a week after he filed a complaint against Executive Assistant Chief of Police Andre Wright, according to 3 law enforcement sources familiar with the complaint. Only union in the country? Yeah. Yeah, they have a dispute. They have like a separate dispute, and I guess like this is what they're saying. Union officials said there's a larger trend of manipulating crime statistics. When our members respond to the scene of a felony offense, when there's a victim reporting that the felony occurred, inevitably there will be a lieutenant or captain that will show up on scene and direct those members to take a report for a lesser offense. Fraternal Order of Police Chairman Greg Pemberton said. So instead of taking a report for a shooting or a stabbing or carjacking, they will order that officer to take a report for theft or an injured person to the hospital or felony assault, which is not the same type of classification. Wouldn't that also increase other crime rates, though, if that was the case? Like the lesser crimes that take place, but crime is down across the board. So how does that make sense? Are they just lying? If that was the case, then certain types of crimes that are lower offenses than like, aggravated assault with a violent firearm as opposed to like a misdemeanor, that would increase, but they're all decreasing. Because this is different than like, massaging the numbers. The police department's command staff is focusing on 2 categories in order to get the numbers to fall, Pemberton said: armed with a dangerous weapon and injured person to the hospital. When management officials are directing officers to take reports of felony assault, if they're going back to the police databases and changing offenses to felony assault's not a category of crime that's listed in the department's daily crime stats. It's also not something that's a requirement of the FBI's Uniform Crime Reporting Program. So by changing criminal offenses, for example, ADW bat or ADW assault with a deadly weapon gun to a felony assault, that would avoid both the MPD and FBI reporting as a part of the felony offense. Here's the chart they were passing out. Oh, so they do have a chart. White House handouts passed out to reporters ahead of President Trump's news conference on DC crime. This is the chart. Washington, D.C. will be liberated today. Crime, savagery, filth, and scum will disappear. I will make our capital great again. Holy fuck, he is so insane. The days of ruthlessly killing or hurting innocent people are over. I quickly fixed the border. 0 illegals in the last 3 months. D.C. is next. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Criminals removed from D.C. streets this weekend. And then it's just like photos of 3 guys. Arrested for possession of controlled substance, oxycodone, and hashish. Arrested for carrying a pistol without a license. The firearm was recovered. Charged with possession of a firearm, possession of unregistered ammunition, possession with intent to distribute narcotics, and carrying a pistol without a license. arrested for DUI, arrested on a warrant out of Georgia, weapons and narcotics seized during the operation this weekend. Wait, what? Narcotics seized during the operation this weekend? What the fuck? This is like shit you buy at a storefront. Bro, this is like a 10th grader made in Microsoft Word. I mean, yeah. Yeah, from immigrant crime to black crime, the conversation quickly shifted to a more comfortable territory that Americans know and Americans love talking about. One could even say that immigrant crime was an extension of like black and brown crime. You know, POCs, they're doing crimes, and now we're back to the age-old hits. These violent black criminals must be kept at bay through lethal law enforcement. That kind of thing.
Mexico City, some of the places that you hear about as being the worst places on earth, much higher. This is much higher. The number of car thefts has doubled over the past 5 years, and the number of carjackings has more than tripled. Murders in 2023 reached the highest rate probably ever. They say 25 years, but they don't know what that means because it just goes back 25 years. Can't be worse. Our capital city has been overtaken by violent gangs and bloodthirsty criminals, roving mobs of wild youth, drugged out maniacs and homeless people. And we're not going to let it happen anymore. We're not going to take it. Just like we did on our southern border. Nobody comes through our southern border anymore. 3 months in a row, we had zero. I don't know if that's right, but the people that do the work, it's a very liberal group of people, actually, and they actually said zero for the last 3 months. Nobody thought a thing like that was possible. And, you know, when you say take a look at numbers, I just saw some...
Don't get me wrong, like America's rooted in racism, but isn't this like incompetent fascism? If people are mad at ICE, I feel like target black people radicalize most Americans more. No, this is incompetent fascism. There's no other way that these guys can actually implement fascism. They're incompetent. This is just... I mean, American fascism also doesn't have any sort of like significant institutional hurdles. American fascism does not have any sort of like serious left-wing pushback. So in the absence of like serious left-wing pushback, you can be incompetent and fascist in this way in broad daylight. And there is seemingly no investment or interest from the left flank, the Democratic Party, which is not a real left party anyway. It's a center-right party in and of itself. But there is no institutional opposition within the duopoly. So they could just be as fucking stupid as possible with very little pushback. They already have captured the attention and the investment of some of the power brokers that control flows of information. On the one hand, you have the Fourth Estate, mainstream news and mainstream press owned by billionaires. Donald Trump goes to them and says, hey, play ball and I will help you. Some of them actually do play ball. Others that actually have any sort of like ideological opposition, because there's no real investment in like covering things truthfully, but there are, I guess, like different interests that some billionaires might have over others. And the ones that actually do cover things that make Trump look bad, for example, Donald Trump will go and sue in the court system. He's been doing it nonstop. And guess what? Lo and behold, there are a fuck ton of law firms that actually offered pro bono legal counsel, free of charge legal counsel to this administration early on. And then beyond that, there's mainstream or non-mainstream resources of information like independent media. Independent media is obviously a little bit trickier to deal with, but you can have a lot of these also incredibly powerful, wealthy billionaires basically tweak the algorithm to the best of their ability to create an unlimited flow of right-wing reactionary propaganda, as you've seen in the ways that it unfolded on Twitter and the secondary impact that had on all of these other platforms as well. That's why there's so much neo-Nazi sentiment flying wild. And here we are. This is it. This is where we're at. We're getting value-tained.
some charts. These are different cities throughout the world. Red is, okay, the red is a place called Washington, D.C. Look at these. Baghdad is, we doubled up on Baghdad. Panama City, Brasilia, San Jose, Costa Rica, Bogota, Colombia, heavy drugs. Mexico City, I mentioned, Lima, Peru, all double and triple what they are. So do you want to live in places like that? I don't think so. I don't think so. And I think the people in this room, if you wrote correctly, you'd see, look at the kind of numbers we have. D.C., 41 per 100,000, number one that we can find anywhere in the world. Other cities are pretty bad, but they're not as bad as that. That where you want to live? The reporters of the world? Juvenile offenders and crimes against persons, as they say. It's getting worse. Not getting better, it's getting worse. And we had a recent indication. There was a story about a man who was just left. He quit because he was asked to do phony numbers on crime. And we're going to look into that. I think Pam is going to be looking into that. But he was asked by the city, I guess, that we don't want to show the real numbers. Let me do numbers so it looks like it's going down. Not going down. And under Biden, it was a disaster. And nobody did anything about it. We're going to do things about it like you wouldn't believe. It's time for dramatic action. We're going to do the same thing over here. It's going to be a very safe city very soon. We're not looking to just take years, because a lot of people die in years. And we've got incredible people in this country, except we have to allow them to do their job. And that we will deliver like nobody's ever delivered before. I actually think it's easy. You know, if you're competent, it's easy. If you're incompetent, it's impossible. But I'm very competent. Last week, my administration surged 500 federal agents into the district, including from the FBI, ATF, DEA, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, the Secret Service, and the Department of Homeland Security. You know, a lot of nations, they don't have anything like that. They got some police, and they're rough police. They don't have DEA, ATF, FBI, Park Police, the U.S. Marshal Service, Secret Service, Department of Homeland Security. They got some police, but they're rough police, and they do their job. They don't have crime. We're not going to have crime either. They made dozens of arrests, and that's what starts to happen. Again, cashless bail. Watch what we do with that. Today, we're formally declaring a public safety emergency. This is an emergency. This is a tragic emergency. And it's embarrassing for me to be up here. You know, I'm going to see Putin. I'm going to Russia on Friday. I don't like being up here talking about how unsafe and how dirty and disgusting this once beautiful capital was, with graffiti all over the walls. It's another part of it, by the way, because we're talking about safety, but we're also talking about beautification. We have the most beautiful, potentially, capital in the world. We always had. But people come from Iowa, they come from Indiana, they come and then they get...
This is a great question. Where is it? Someone said, after the second time, how can people still believe what he's saying? Where did it go? I can't find it. After he got elected the second time, it's actually hard for me to listen to him talk. All the confidence and charisma is gone. How are still people falling for this? It's because of what he's saying. If you noticed, what he's saying is something that many right-wing politicians have said since the inception of the American state. The notion that, like, black and brown people are scary and they're ruining our big, beautiful cities. It's just a more modernized version of it. So you don't really need a lot of charisma when there is already, centuries of delicately crafted anti-black propaganda, anti-brown person, like these guys are different than us, type of propaganda that he can just like rely on. It's not just Fox News. This is far before Fox News. That's why I say like anti-blackness is fundamental. It's foundational to American societal development. So all he's basically doing is relitigating that same exact fear that many Americans have, and that's all they need to hear. They see it as him truth telling. Do you understand? And it's also like a bunch of other boomer problems as well. I mean, if you notice, he's like talking about the beautification of the city by like tackling graffiti. Like no one under the age of 35 is going to look at that and be like, wow, I'm glad that they're tackling it. Like that's not a significant problem facing any American, not even 35, under the age of 45. Who gives a fuck if there's graffiti everywhere? Are you kidding me? Make affordable housing happen, okay? People can't live in homes, and you're talking about like people vandalizing the beautiful city with graffiti. No one cares. I don't care. I like it's graffiti is so not an issue that I would say that like in the millennial generation and onward, people literally commission graffiti artists to do like murals and shit. It's over. Like that's not a real point of contention at all for many people. The reason why he's doing that is because he's an old dipshit and he is commanding the attention of other old dipshits who do care about that sort of thing and think like, oh my God, it's riddled with crime. Yeah, the pull up your pants caucus celebrating is right. That's exactly what's happening here. We're going to make it illegal to have your pants sag. That's right. It's no longer a thing. Because, like, remember, guys, a lot of racialized language in this country is insidious. It's, like, hidden. It's not, it's something that most people tune into but refuse to acknowledge as, like, racialized. You can't just like straight up slam the N-word into your fucking propaganda because people will go, oh, that's a bridge too far for me. But if you hit it from different angles, like saying that they're thugs, saying that there's a lot of crime that they are doing, saying, you know, at different times there has been different versions of relitigating this same cycle, the same understanding that like black people are violent savages who are constantly doing crime and must be violently put down. With a veneer of plausible deniability, then you can get away with it.
Mugged? Not going to happen. Keep coming because by the time you get your trip set, it's going to be safe again and it's going to be clean very quickly. We're going to replace the medians that are falling down all over the roads. We're going to replace the potholes. We're going to put a nice new coat of asphalt over the top. No, we don't have to rip the road out and spend 7 years building a new road because they cut everything. Because some designers said, well, we need a 1/4 inch more turn for safety reasons. No, we're going to do it right. We're going to get it done quickly. So today we're declaring public safety emergency in the District of Columbia. And Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's fantastic, is taking command of the Metropolitan Police Department as of this moment. And I'll be making the appropriate notifications to Congress and to the mayor, our new DEA administrator, who's one of the top in the country. He better be Terry. If you're not, I'm going to get rid of you so fast. Terry Cole. Terry, thanks. Very good. We just got him. Most highly recommended person.
Bro, why can't you do something about a real issue instead of making everything worse? What do you mean? That's the whole principle behind reactionary politics. And it's looking at the reasons as to why crime persists, and instead of actually tackling the material inequities at the heart of why crime happens, okay, instead of tackling the root of why these crimes happen, which is of course woke, gay, and socialist, the solution to these issues. So you can't do that. You have to continue. You have to continue with more and more violent and apprehensive law enforcement policies. It's just law and order. That's what you got to do. More law and order. More law and order. which of course exacerbates the inequalities anyway. It doesn't actually solve the problem at all. It maybe like sweeps it away from the public eye for a little bit.
And you'll be designated as the interim federal commissioner of the Metropolitan Police Department, okay? And you run them tough. They're good. You have a lot of good people. You have people that shouldn't be there. You also have people that shouldn't be there. They got in there because of woke. But you have a lot of great police, and those people are the ones that want to help you.
Pamela, it was more than an hour.
You got people in there because of woke. Incredible, man. Incredible. You got people in there because of woke that shouldn't be in there. I mean, what do you say to that? What do you say to that? That's the president, man. Let's continue, I guess.
This news conference, and it's been going on, answering a bunch of questions.
Yeah, and this is significant because what he announced today is a federal takeover of D.C. police and deploying the National Guard. I mean, this is, as far as I know, unprecedented to hear it.
National Guard and potentially other U.S. military troops down the road.
Exactly, and he made it clear that this could just be the beginning, that it might not just be D.C., and I think that that is significant as well. And, of course, this is an extraordinary move by the president. I want to bring in our Brian Todd here. Brian, we're already getting reaction from D.C. council members.
We are, Pamela and Wolf. This coming into CNN from Council Member Charles Allen of the 6th Ward in D.C. His post is, quote, "The president taking over local control of MPD and putting the U.S. military onto the streets of D.C. under the guise of public safety is wrong. It's an extreme, outrageous, and dangerous move for our city and the safety of all of our residents." He's the first city council member to react to this whole thing. None of them had reacted really last week to this in any real measure. This is the first time a city council member has reacted.
Is it blue and on to think this is another Epstein distraction? No, I think this isn't an Epstein distraction necessarily. I think this is just like another part of the broader plan. I don't think it's even blue and on to suggest that this is like the ultimate goal, which is to violently take over any sort of crime enforcement and give it directly to the hands of a much more servile federal law enforcement that is beholden to Donald Trump first and foremost. It's just like, they don't want any sort of localized control. They don't want any sort of like blue cities making decisions that would protect their own citizens, protect their own local constituents. They want basically all control to be in the hands of the administrative state, and they want to engage in a fascist takeover of cities. I think that's what it is. Like, they see the kind of language coming from Zohran Mamdani, for example. And it's like, oh, you do this to DC first, and you have a successful strategy that you've implemented in terms of like a brown shirt fascist takeover over the Capitol. Then you can do it in New York City too. It's I mean, it started not with DC, but it started with like Los Angeles. Los Angeles was the blueprint. Act as though crime is completely out of control and forcibly federalize the National Guard against the demands or the interests of the state governance itself, and use that as a threatening military presence to violently stop any sort of pushback from the local citizens. Portland is another example as well. Portland and Trump 1 was a perfect example of this. And I think like it's DC, LA, it will be New York tomorrow, I think. That's what I think is going on. And if there's no pushback whatsoever, if there's no mobilization against this sort of thing, and if there's no like institutional setbacks presented by the party that is supposed to be at odds with this sort of thing, then we'll just have a complete fascist takeover with very little hurdles implemented in the direction of making sure that America remains a democracy.
and come out strongly on this. We're also reaching out to Mayor Muriel Bowser's office and the office of the Metropolitan Washington Police Department for their response. We started to reach out to them while this news conference was going.
What's interesting is, like, there were reasonable grounds for something similar to have been done under the Democratic leadership of Joe Biden with states like Texas, where Governor Greg Abbott was literally going against the interests of the federal government, going against the interests of the administrative state, going against the demands being made at the federal level for how to deal with migration into the country. And yet no such incident took place when there was actually a reason for Biden to do this. You understand? Like, Biden should have done this. This is something that I said Biden should have done. And of course, at the time, many people were like, well, don't you think that that would be a dangerous precedent to set? No, because if a fucking, if a state is deciding that they're just going to violate the aspects of the federal government that have full control over, like, immigration, for example, and they're just going to seemingly decide on their own what to do, and then they're going to do human trafficking, which is what Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis famously did when Biden was president, then you have to punish them. Otherwise, if you don't fucking punish them, they're just going to continue doing it. And what I was demanding at that point was actually doing law and order, not like a fake made up crime, or not like a normal part of existing in a city that already has, like, local forms of policing to deal with these sorts of things like carjackings and the like, but instead, like, a state directly violating orders from the federal government. And Biden didn't do it, and Republicans still ended up doing it anyway. So this is the point we're at. It's like Democrats being like, oh, well, we got to protect the institutions, the sanctity of our institutions. If we, like, violate something, if we actually violate previous norms like this, then Republicans will violate them when they come into power. And it's like, okay, but they already are going to do it, and they have done it, and they're going to continue doing it anyway. You have to, at some point, you have to fight fire with fire and actually actively push back. Republicans have never looked for permission from the Democrats to do something. They just do it. They know what they can get away with, and they rely on their base and the appetite that their base has for, like, unlimited violence against known villains, okay, well-established villains, marginalized demographics and things like that, and they will do anything they want to do. Yeah, so why do you believe Democrats will push back? What point did I say they are pushing back? I'm saying that they're not, and I wish they would.
Going on. No word back from them yet. The mayor has been fairly muted in her comments on this. She did speak out yesterday in an interview, but did not openly criticize the president for this. It's an extraordinary move. We have to point out, never before in American history has the U.S. president taken over control of the Metropolitan Washington, D.C. Police Department. How is this going to work on the streets? How is it going to work from a command and control standpoint? That is a huge, huge question. And of course, his threat to do this in other cities, we'll see how that plays out. I think you got to see how it really plays out here first.
Right, and we should also note that he talked about moving the homeless population in D.C., right. Thousands of people far away without offering those specifics.
He didn't say where they were going. I want to bring in our senior White House reporter, Kevin Liptak. Kevin, you've been monitoring this very, very closely. What jumps out at you?
Yeah, and I think the president's steps here to federalize the D.C. police force certainly very significant. What we didn't hear from the president was how long that would last. You know, the statute that he's using, the D.C. Home Rule Act, allows for initial federalization for 48 hours before notifying Congress. He said that he was doing that. So beyond that, we don't know exactly how long it would last. The other thing that stuck out was the president raising open the possibility that he would use active duty troops as part of this effort, saying that they would be ready as needed to join the federal or National Guard to help support law enforcement in the city. And you really did hear the president paint quite a dystopian picture of Washington, D.C., saying that it was overtaken by violent gangs, by bloodthirsty criminals, using this imagery that doesn't necessarily comport with a lot of people's experience in this city, but also with what the actual numbers show. You know, statistics do show Yep, violent crime in Washington is falling since reaching a peak in 2023. The president's aides dispute some of those figures. You heard the president come out saying that some of those statistics might have been cooked, but really when you look at the numbers, what the president is painting is an image that doesn't necessarily match up with what the figures show, but also with what a lot of people's experience in the city is. And so a significant step by the president certainly today.
All right, Kevin Liptak at the White House for us. Kevin, thank you very, very much.
I think one of the craziest aspects of this is that, like, this violent seizure, okay, this ridiculous seizure of local law enforcement in the hands of, like, federal law enforcement apparatus is precisely what the Republicans presented as a real danger that the Democrats were implementing when they fucking were not, okay? Black bagging people for thought crimes. Republicans are doing it. Democrats never did that shit, okay? Like, mass censorship at the behest of the State Department. They constantly pointed to, like, the Biden administration saying, like, oh, with COVID vaccines, like, you got to be more careful with what kind of information you're disseminating. They were fucking fearful of that shit. Nowadays, you literally get arrested. You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. It's insane that, like, every single thing that Republicans claim that they care about, that they complained about, that the Democrats might potentially do when they were not doing, okay? When a Republican president is doing it, they're all fucking celebrating it, okay? Black bagging people for thought crimes, literally happening in this goddamn fucking administration. No issues whatsoever. The idea that, like, the idea that, like, oh, there's a pedophilic elite that are being protected by the administration in charge. Okay, look at Donald Trump. He's going to give a fucking pardon to Ghislaine Maxwell, or at least, like, lenient sentencing to Ghislaine Maxwell. It's already started in exchange for a false confession, presenting her as the singular person that can, reveal information about an investigation that the administration is suppressing. Like, that's literally what the Trump administration is doing. Everything that, like, Republican voters have cried about that, like, Democrats are going to do, or they claim that Democrats were doing, the Trump administration is doing actively. Even things that are, like, undeniable. You know what I mean? And that's where we're at. Here we are. You know, it's happening in real time. And it seems like the Republicans love it. They're like, oh, this is great. This is exactly what we voted for. That's what they keep saying over and over and over again. Great.